Hey, and welcome to another episode of that Worship Guitar Show. Really great to be online here again with you guys. As a reminder, we switched up the times a little bit where the stream is now happening on Fridays. And then every week we're alternating the times. 1 week is going to be US friendly. So then it'll happen, I think, what is it? It's 4 p.m. our time, which then means it's, I think, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern Standard. So I'll confirm those times with you shortly. And then the other week, it's going to be more Australian-friendly time, which is now, which is 11 a.m. our time, which, of course, is close to the evening there in Australia. And then obviously giving folks in different parts of Europe and Australasia a gap as well to join us live here. So I'm quickly getting set up, I'm getting tuned up, and then today we are going to be talking about theory, right? And theory is quite important because that helps you to understand what you are doing. Too many people don't quite have a clear understanding between what they can do in a guitar and what they're physically doing. So we're going to be talking about that and just kind of decoding some elements for you in today's training, which is quite important, just simplifying music theory specifically for worship guitar. So if you guys are joining us live, please let us know where you are watching from. We can see we've got Ademir tuning in from Brazil. Welcome, Ademir. Great to see you. Wonderful, wonderful. We've got Michael Roo saying, Goeiemôre meester, Pretoria, South Africa. That's one of our fellow South Africans. Hey, Michael, great to see you again on the stream. Hope all is well on your end. We've got Donnie Solo saying hello, and we've got Kenan James Kuna saying hello from J-Bay as well. So wonderful. So as you guys are tuning in, please let me know where you are watching from, and then it'll be great to see where you guys are. So and then Michael Aguilar is tuning in from Arkansas in the US, and he says he's made the live stream early. So we know that some folks kind of like that as well, where they are able to join quite early in the US, even though it's a Australia-friendly time zone, but, you know, some people are early risers. So, Michael, it's great to see you as well. So, we're going to dive into today's lesson and just decode some of the theoretical elements, and then I'm going to kind of give you my thinking in and around theory. And you know what? Theory for me has been really the game that is, the thing that has unlocked the game for me when it comes to modern worship, because I'm not like a naturally, you get some people who are just, they can play by ear. They play these amazing chord voicings, and they can play jazz, and they can just do all this stuff where with their ear, things just click and they can do it, right? For me, it kind of, I had to go approach it from a different way, because I didn't have that natural inclination to just easily hear a melody and then play it on a guitar without actually knowing what the notes are. So for me, I kind of went the traditional route, route rather, as it relates to learning theory. So what I want to do is I'm going to pull up my iPad, because we can have a bit of a blackboard session here, and that way it'll be easy for us to see, okay, great, what we are talking about. So if you are watching live with us, then you've got the opportunity to ask any questions in and around worship guitar or theory, and I'd be happy to answer those while I get my next camera sorted out over here. That should do the trick for us, and let's just have a quick look here. I am just making that a real quick tweak over here, and then let's just quickly see what does the second cam look like on the guitar. Yep, that's a close-up there, which we can see as well. All right, so when it comes to music, what I've found to be useful is, you know, it's never one thing. It's a combination of things that make it easy for you to learn and play music. So what I like to do when I look at this is, there's an acronym that I came up with, which is VAMP. Now, if you know what a VAMP is, it's a musical term, and that we also use in worship quite a lot, is if I just kind of, you know, grab a chord, that's kind of a funky vamp where I just hang on one chord. And so it's a musical term that it's got something to do with, you know, as you jam. I'm just going to get my volume up here. So the 4 things that you want to look at when you are learning music, and this really applies to modern worship as well, is the first term over here is visual, right? So I'm just going to write it like this. Visual. You want to be able to see what's going on from the fretboard point of view, and just really understand the shapes. Because think about it, when we go to kindergarten, I've got one of my kids is in kindergarten at the moment, and the other 2 are in primary school. So they learn shapes, right? They shape recognition and patterns and all those kind of things. So if I were to just, I'll say, okay, cool, well, what visual elements are those? We are talking about shapes and patterns. And I'm gonna unpack that for you shortly. Then our next element that we are talking about is oral. So what does oral mean? Well, that is simply what you are hearing. We have a lot of folks that can just listen to a progression and they can hear, okay, that's 1, 4, 6, 5, or that's a minor chord or a sus chord or a major chord or whatever the case may be, but it's your ability to hear. So for visual, this is our ability to see, shapes on the guitar. I'm going to show that to you shortly. Aural is our ability to hear things on the guitar, when you can just hear the difference between chords or progressions or anything like that. Then the M stands for mental, right? So that just deals with the ability to understand things. Now, this is where for a lot of people, and this is going to be our focus for today, a lot of people run into this challenge where they don't quite understand the different moving parts that they need to know. Why is a major scale, or why does G major have one sharp, or why is a triad only 3 notes, or how do the actual inversions work of a triad? Just actually physically understanding it, because when you understand it and you can start to see things, and you can also start to hear things, and it's much easier for you to learn and grow as a guitarist. And then finally, we've got physical. So this is, if you look at your guitar playing, you need to be able to change chords, you need to be able to fret chords, you need to be able to do all those kind of things. And that has to do with drill. So this is, if you can, you are seeing things in your visual side, and then you are hearing things for the aural, you are understanding the theoretical concepts from the mental point of view, and then when you get to the physical, this is where you're physically going to be playing. This is going to be your technique / doing. This is where you physically have to play a chord progression, you physically have to do chord changes and all these kind of things. So in the chat, let me know, based on these 4 areas, if it's related to visual, aural, mental, or physical, like which one of them do you feel you are the strongest in, and which one of those are you the weakest in? It's quite important just to be able to understand that point of view, because if you don't, then it's hard to actually see, okay, great, where do we go from here? What do you want to improve? And all those kind of things. So a lot of folks, when they learn guitar, they kind of learn a pentatonic scale or a few patterns, right? So they can see the shapes and they can understand, okay, great, this is a pentatonic scale. But they don't quite understand what the notes are that make up the scale, or it's hard for them to hear the different notes within the scale. And then maybe they physically they can play the pattern, and visually they can see it. But hearing the difference between a root note, a flat 7, a minor third, all those kind of things, that's one area that kind of can fall by the wayside a little bit. And then secondly, the mental understanding of what makes a minor pentatonic the minor pentatonic, or what makes a major scale the major scale, or a triad, or all those kind of things. So that's a useful model to look at, like, where are you weak? Because if you think about it, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if you are weak in one area, then it's hard to make that progress accordingly. So we see Michael saying that he's strong on the seeing side. And that is quite common for us as guitar players, because if we're talking about, for example, one thing that we teach on the channel so much is just the ability to see these shapes, which is basically it's 3 shapes that I can use. So I can see it, right? Physically see the shapes. And then obviously once you see them, you need to be able to play them. So in Michael's case, he's saying he's a little bit weaker on the physical side. So that means, all right, great. How do you solve the physical side? Well, that comes through repetition. And they say that practice makes perfect. It's not quite true, because practice makes permanent. Whatever you're practicing, going to make that permanent. So our habit as guitar players are, if we are strong at the visual side of seeing the shapes, but weak on the physical side of maybe playing or adding a technique, or your string muting, or your articulation, or changing chords, or playing in all the areas of the neck, then we're going to tend not to work so much on the areas that we are not so strong on, right? Because it doesn't feel good, number one. So that's just, unfortunately, a defect in our system of practicing guitar, because we're going to keep doing what feels good, right? But if you have a system now, you've seen, okay, great, I need to get stronger in my physical area, then you can come up with some drills. And what I've just, for example, a drill for the 4/2 voicings might look like this. You might say, I'm going to play G in 3 areas of the neck. And I can just turn off our delays there. So in addition with the seeing, if you know it's just these 3 shapes, you want to get used to the physical side of that and just do that over and over. Then you'll do the same for C. You'll do the same for E minor and same for D. The next way that you can maybe work on your physical side is to play 1, 5, 6, or let's go 1, 6, 4, 5. So you'll play 1, 6, 4, 5, and then you go 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, 6, 4, 5. So you just need to get some drills that you can use on a repetitive manner to program that physical side. Because then if you get good at if your seeing is strong and you can level up the physical, then immediately you will grow in a big way. Because now the area that used to hold you back, it's almost like running with weights on. Now you take those weights off, and now you are unrestricted, and you can just run. Now we've got Michael Aguilar saying he doesn't know what the strongest is for sure, but mental understanding is hard because the information feels like a lot. And that's a great observation there, because I mean, if what you have to work on feels overwhelming, or like it's too much, or whatever the case may be, then it's hard for us to really dive into what we want to achieve there, just because it's just overwhelming. Like, where do I even start? And that really is a great transition for us to actually look at, well, what do we want to understand as it relates to the mental understanding for theory? Because in Michael's case, like, you can go and study jazz, you can do reharmonization, you can learn the modes, you can work on any of these more complicated theoretical concepts, which are great, but you're never going to use it. So there's a lot of theory that you can ignore. So let's go to our blackboard here, and then let's first, before we focus on what it is that we want to look on, we want to know, like, what is it that we can ignore? That's quite important. Because then if you know, okay, great, there's all this theory stuff that I need to learn, but you know what? There's a bunch of stuff that I can ignore. Then that helps you to actually just feel better about it, where you know, okay, great, I don't have to learn on all these other things. So that is a feeling of relief, right? Because now you know, okay, great, I don't have to learn the modes, for example, or I don't have to learn jazz chord melodies, or I don't need to do any of these kind of things, because based on your time that is limited, you've got limited time, we all have limited time, you can't work on all these elements. So that's why you need to know what you can ignore, and that's going to put you in a state of relief, which then means, okay, great, now what do I need to focus on? Okay, I need to get my focus dialed in. That's very, very important. Think of the Bible, how it talks about vision, and when Jesus told stories and used parables, it's stuff that people could focus on, that they could see, and all these kind of things. So it's very important. We even sing, "Open the eyes of my heart, Lord." So we understand that seeing and having focus is important. And I have a nice acronym that I like for focus, which is follow one course until successful. So follow one course until successful, so that you don't have to try and do everything. You know you can't do everything because you're limited in time. There's just too much to learn. So you know, okay, great, I don't have to learn everything. I just need to focus on these few things. So now you say, okay, great, Charles, that's awesome. I know what I can ignore, which is great. It's going to give me a sense of relief, and I know I don't have to focus on everything. But now what do I need to focus on? And if we're saying follow one course until successful, what does that look like for us as worship guitarists? Well, that's what I want to show you today. So if you think about a song, what are you going to play when you play songs? Well, obviously, you're going to play chords, right? So you need to understand chords. when you're going to be playing melodies, they're going to come from, one way to look at it is they come from scales, right? So what happens then is you need to understand that, and what is the progression there? Well, chords and scales, that's actually step 2 in this method of ours, because step 1 is understanding that we have the different notes available to us, and based on how we organize them, they can turn into chords and scales. So that's why for chords, we've got triads. Obviously, we love triads. We've got a series going on that right now. We love dyads, which is those things I just played right now. And then, obviously, sus chords as well. I think those are used quite a lot in worship. And then maybe the final one might be power chords. So these are the kind of chord types that you should learn as it relates to what you want to do. So those chords and the chord types, they basically become all of this. What are they going to become? They're going to be played in progressions. So now if I take a song, whether it's 1, 4, 6, 5 maybe, or which in key of C will be C, F, A minor, G. So you want to then know, okay, great, how do these, right now you might know the chords, and you might know some of these chords, and you might know some of the progressions, which you are good at seeing and you're good at playing. But maybe you don't quite understand how the notes become these chords. And that is where the theory goes, because if you don't quite have that understanding dialed in, then it's hard for you. You're gonna get a limit as it relates to what you can learn on the guitar. So that's our progression. It's chords, the notes that become chords that then ultimately becomes our progressions. So that's why I just put these 3 in the boxes like that. So the notes can also be organized to become scales, and then those scales are then going to become what we call melodies. So that is what obviously the singers sing on a Sunday. So it's good for us to understand where the melodies come from. And the great point here is that melodies and chords, they actually work together. And a lot of people don't understand that between chords and melodies there's actually a strong connection. So that's the first thing to understand, is your chords, how they are built, and then your scales, how they can become melodies. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. So if we look at our chords, like this, for example, then we spoke about the notes over here, just to remind you. We spoke about the notes, and the notes become the scales, and from there we can build chords that become progressions, and then we play melodies. That, in essence, is what we do on a Sunday. So you need to organize your notes into chords, in scales and chords that then become progressions and melodies. When you do those things, that's when we can play music. So the theory that you need to understand, I'm going to quickly give it to you guys real quick, is number 1, you need to learn intervals. Now, intervals is simply the distance between 2 notes. So that's an interval. It's the distance between 2 notes. You need to know that quite clearly, because then everything that you learn is distance related on the guitar. So for example, let me just show you like this. If I play C over here, and I go up 4 frets, I'm going to get to the 3rd. And then if I go up 3 frets, I'm going to get to the 5th. So these are distances, which then makes up a triad. But then we have to ask ourselves, okay, when it comes to intervals, what's the smallest interval that I can get in Western music? That's going to be known, and let's just write here, the smallest one is going to be known as a semitone. That's what some people call it. Other people call that a half step. All right. So you need to know that an interval is the distance between 2 notes, and the smallest distance that we get in music, in Western music, is a semitone or a half step. So if you got a piano, then it's going to be the 1 note to the next note. So let's see if I can draw a piano. Probably not going to be able to draw that piano the right way. I must practice this at another time, but that's going to be black notes or whatever the case may be and maybe there's 3 over there. So definitely my calling was not to be an artist like this, right? But if I'm on a piano, which this is use your imagination, if I play this note to the very next note, so it's a white key to a black key, again a white key to a black key, or maybe I go a black key to a white key, or in some places it's going to be 2 white keys next to each other. So it's literally one note next to the next note. That is what we call a semitone. And on a guitar, a semitone is 1 fret. That's a semitone. And then the next one is going to be obviously 2 frets, which then gives us a tone or a whole step. So now, when you know these 2 things, that's our smallest interval. Our next one is going to be, I'll just write here, this is 1 fret. Let's move this down. Okay, great. So now we know that this is 1 fret. And then 2 frets will be what we call a tone or a whole step. And that's all you need to know for right now. If you know these 2 things on the guitar, then you're in a good space. Now, what would happen if we play this specific combination of notes? So it's tone, 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 semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So if I start on C and I go up a tone, which is 2 frets, I'm going to get D. I go up again 2 frets, I'm going to get E. Then I go up 1 fret, I get F. I go up 2 frets, I get G. I go up 2 frets, I get A. I go up 2 frets, I get B. And I go up 1 fret, I get C. This here is my C major scale. And it's very important for us to understand what that major scale is all about. So it's, if I go to the guitar, I'm going to show you. Here we go, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And I can play this over here. You can play that C in many different places on the guitar, that C major scale. So that's my major scale. What does that mean? It simply means we've now taken the notes and we've organized them in a way that makes sense. So let me just add another page here. So we can go ahead and just see, okay, great, what are we going to do with this now? So we're going to add 1 page here. Now I know that this is my major scale. I'll write it out for us again. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So that's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. If I were to do that the same with G major, then I'll get G to A as a tone, A to B as a tone, B to C as a semitone, C to D as a tone, D to E as a tone, E to F sharp is a tone. Now I need an F sharp to keep that going, and then F sharp to G is a semitone. That is why we can see that some scales have a sharp. So in the key of a G major scale, it has 1 sharp. So when you learn the circle of fifths, which we won't do today, but when you learn the circle of fifths, then it's a quick cheat sheet to learn what all the notes are of the major scales across the board. The next step is then just to understand, how do you actually form a chord? And I think let's quickly do D major as well. So over here, then I'm going to be doing some playing for you shortly. So D to E is a tone, E to F sharp is a semitone, also a tone, F sharp to G is a tone, G to A is a tone, A to B is a tone, B to C sharp is a tone, and C sharp to D is a semitone. So now I've got 3 scales. Now what is a triad? And we're going to be playing in the key of G here just for a second. What is a triad? A triad is simply when I take the first, and I didn't write that in, maybe I'll just quickly write this in for us. 1. Okay, I'll just do that with let's do that with a red pen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Technically it's 8. Let's make that an 8 then, because that's where the word octave comes from. So 8 letter names apart is an octave. So that's obviously a different kind of an interval, octave. Now, a triad, what is a triad? A triad is if I play notes 1, 3, and 5. So C, E, G is going to give me C major. G, B, D is going to give me G major. And D, F sharp, A is going to give me A major. Sorry, D major. So that is if you take the first note, the third note, and the fifth note of a scale, that's going to give you those chords. So we're understanding, okay, great, that's how I get a chord made. So let's look at this now. C, E, and G. C, E, G. There you can see it. C, E, G. C, E, G. That's a C major chord. So now if I see C sus4, then I know it's a C, but I'm suspending the third with the fourth and then G. So C, F, G sounds like this. C sus4. Or C sus2 is going to be C, D, G. And then it's going to be... I'm going to show you on the guitar. So C, E, G is a triad. C sus4 or C sus2. And that is what you can see over there, like I've just played that. Now if I do G, B, and D, then over here I'm going to get G, B, D on my guitar, G, B, D, or G sus4 or G sus2. And then for D, D, F sharp, A, as you can see there, D, F sharp, and A, D sus2, and it's D, E, G, oh sorry, D, E, A. Can you see how that makes up the chord then? So you need to know that if you are playing C major chord, that the notes in that chord is really C, E, and G. If I play G major chord, G, B, and D. And if I play a D major chord, D, F sharp, and A. And what I'm going to do is, if you do this, I can say A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and then G sharp, and then A. How do I know that? Well, I just keep following this thing that we said, tone, tone, semitone. And now I'm just going to do one more, which is E to F sharp is a tone. F sharp to G sharp is a tone. G to A is a semitone. A to B is a tone. B to C sharp is a tone. C sharp to D sharp is a tone. And then D sharp to E is a tone. So now, if I want to play E major, it's going to be E, G sharp, and B. So E, G sharp, B. That's going to be my E major chord. But what happens if I want to make this an E minor chord? Well, then I need to flatten the third. So you need to take this third over here and you need to make it one fret lower. So this is going to be, I'm just going to draw it like this. So this is major. So I know that an E major chord is E, G sharp, B. But what is a minor? It's E. Now the G sharp becomes a G. And the B stays the same. So it's just the difference between these two notes. As it relates to, I need to make this one fret lower. So if I take, for example, C, E, G, that I've had here, but I make it C, E flat, G, then C, E flat, G, C, E flat, G, then I get a minor sound. Or if I go G, B flat, D, I get a minor sound. Or D, F, A, so D, F, A, then I get a minor sound. So that's the first thing I just want you to understand there, is that you can take a major scale, you can build it when you use this model of ours with tone, 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 semitone. Then when you take the first, the third, or the fifth notes of that scale, you're going to get what's known as a triad. And when you flatten that triad with one fret, That's why if I take it 1 fret down, then I'm going to get a minor chord. And now I'm going to play a little bit, right? So I'm going to just demo this for you shortly. Let's just go to my tracks. So I've got one. Well, if I do G, it's G. And I can just go to my guitar here. So G, B, D, G, B, D, C, E, G, E, G, B, and then what do we have? D, F sharp, A, D, F sharp, A. Can you see how those notes now basically make up my entire chord progression here of G, C, E minor, D. So why is that important? Well, the reason that is quite important is the fact that you want to be able to play a song. I'm just going to see if I've got something in G there. Yes, I've got 1, 4, 6, 5, and I've got 1, 6, 5, 4, and I've got 4, 1, 5, 6 in G. So if I go back to my iPad over here, now we've just basically looked at this. I'm going to jam this now so you can see where this is coming from. G is going to be, now we're going to be focusing on our G chord. What does that mean? It's just, I mean, we're focusing on the key of G, not the G chord, the key of G. So what is G when I look at my scale? Well, G over here is, of course, 1. So G is 1. So G is going to be my 1 chord. Okay. What is C? It's going to be my 2 chord. Because, sorry, my 4 chord. I am in the wrong key there. My 4 chord. Because why is it the 4 chord? Well, there's G, A, B, C. That's why C is the 4 chord. And now, what is D? Well, it's the 5 chord. Why? For the same reason. G, A, B, C, D. It's my 5 chord. And then what is E minor? Like we said, there's an E minor, right? It's going to be the 6th chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that takes me to the minor chord over there because I flattened it, remember. So now I get these chords, G, C, E minor, and D. And if I were to write this out, that'll be 1, 4, 6, 5. All right, I can also do that as 4, 1, 5, 6, which will then be C, G, D, E minor. And I think I had one more over here which I can show you. Now I'm going to jam all 3 of these tracks for you real quick. The last one is going to be, let's see, what else have I got here? I've gotten 1, 4, 6, 5, which we've done. And then I've got 1, 6, 5, 4 as well. So I've got 1, 6, let's draw this on the side here. So I've got 1, 6, 5, 4, which will be G, E minor, C, and D. So now can you see how I've gotten these different progressions? I'll just zoom it in here a little bit, because now not only do I understand how the chords have been built, so I've looked at how to build the chords, and then I've looked at how the chords become a progression, and we're going to talk about the melody thing shortly. So let me cut to my guitar over here. So if we're going to do 1, 4, 6, 5, it's going to sound like this. So here's 1, G, C, E minor, and then D. G, that's my 1, 4, 6, and 5. So now I can play that on the guitar. 1, 1, 4, 6, 5. Now I can play some lead. So where did all that come from? Well, it's kind of right here. So I just played this progression, which was G, C, E minor, D. So now I know, first of all, what is 1, 4, 6, 5? It's these chords. Based on the scale. There's 1, there's 4, there's 6, which 5 and 6 we remember is going to be a minor. Always a minor. So 2, 3, and 6 will always be a minor. Okay? And then the notes that I just played now, when I played G, I focused on playing either one of those 3 notes. When it was C, I played one of those 3 notes. When it was D, one of these 3 notes. And when it was E minor, I played one of those 3 notes. So it shows me what notes I can play for the chords, what notes I can play for the scale when I play melody, and how to make the progression. So that is really the 3 big things to have awareness of, is the fact that you can play chords, scales, and progressions, because the chords become progressions and the scales can become melodies. But when you just play a scale up and down, it's going to not work so nicely because you're kind of shooting in the dark. You don't know if you're hitting your targets. But when you play your scale, like I've shown you, tone, 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 semitone, tone, 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 semitone, when you play your scale and you know what notes to land on, that way you know how to make up your melody. So I'm going to do this for you one more time. What am I going to do? I'm going to play the chords, then I'm going to play the scale on one string. In fact, let's start with a scale, because I know a lot of folks kind of wonder, well, how do you get a single note to work when you are playing lead? And it's literally this simple. I will do another stream with a little bit cleaner writing, or another video where we can get some computer graphics to simplify this. But let's look at this. We have one scale, all right, which I'm going to play on one string for us shortly. So I can play any one of these notes over any chord, but when it comes to choosing a note to rest on, it has to be one of these notes. So if I'm over G, I can rest on a B. If I'm over C, I can rest on a C. If I'm playing G, I can rest on, E minor, I can rest on a G. And when I play D, I can rest on an A. So what am I saying? You can play any one of these notes. But when you rest on a note, you need to know what note are you playing, and based on the note that you are playing, what note are you going to land on. That's simplifying the theory as it relates to show me the scale, then show me the chords, then show me the notes in the chords, so that when I use the whole scale and I know when to land on a note, I can do that. So it shouldn't be G sharp, it's G minor there. So now let's do that in practice. G major scale on one string. What is this? It's 2 frets is a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So now if I play G, I can do G, B, D, G, B, D, G. When I do C, I can do C, E, G. When I do E minor, I can do E, G, B. And when I do D, I can do D, F sharp, A. So my whole scale, sorry. And I don't have enough frets to finish it on that one string, but that's my scale on one string. I can play any one of those notes, but I need to know where do I land. And let's make it fun. We'll grab a EBO out here. Where do I land? I can play any notes of that full G major scale like I've just shown you now. But when I want to rest on a note, I can't just keep playing. I have to rest on notes. I'm going to have to choose a note that is, if it's G, it needs to be G, B, or D. C, C, E, or G. E minor, E, G, or B. And D, D, F sharp, or A. Just one of those 3 notes. Let's check it out. to chords, C. Etc. So what did we do? We first just looked at, when we just look at the notes, think of as if you are building Lego, right? My kids love Lego. All the Lego blocks are just there in the box, all disconnected, they are in the box. How do you take those blocks and you put them together in a way, you're not going to use all of the blocks, but you're going to build one thing. That's when we built the scale. We took the blocks and then we took our tone, tone, semitone. Tone, 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 semitone. We built a scale. Then we know that if we take the root, the third, and the fifth of any major scale, G, B, D, gives me G. C, E, G gives me C. E, G, B gives me E minor, and D, F sharp, A gives me D. So now I've taken the loose notes from the chromatic scale, I made a major scale. From the major scale, I built chords, and then when we say 1, 6, 4, 5, I can play that in a G, or I'll do a 4, 1, 5, 6 for us now. Then instead of it being, and let's go back to over here, I wrote that out over here. So instead of me playing 1, 6, 4, 5, which in this instance that we played was that. Now I'm going to play 4, 1, 5, 6. The chords are going to be different, but the notes that make up these chords, like we saw there, they will stay the same. And now it's up to me. Do I want to play rhythm, where I play the chords, or do I want to play lead? I just need to know in what order is my progression happening, and then I can choose rhythm or lead. Let's do the 4, 1, 5, 6. And then we're getting to the end of the stream. So anyone has any questions, let me know. I'm pretty much condensing what I've learned, like, more than 20 years ago, probably 30 years ago now. I'm getting old. So I've condensed it down into an hour as it relates to chord construction, progressions, and playing lead or playing parts. So if you have any questions around this, let me know. But let's now do the 4, 1, 5, 6. So it's going to be a new progression. It's a new progression, but it's still in the same key, which is G. And the chord tones of the chords are going to remain the same. Check this out. 4. 1. 5. 6. So that as a jam just kind of gives you a sense of how I'm taking the separate notes. The separate notes become a chord or a scale. The chords become a progression, the scale becomes a melody which uses the chord tones. In fact, let me just draw this out one last time, and it's even useful for me just to kind of simplify like this. So, and then we'll wrap today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. So we've taken just notes, random notes, whether it's on the fretboard or on the piano, it's our loose Lego blocks. Then I form chords with those notes and scales. And for the scales, I showed you it's a tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. Whoa, my drawing here. I can also become a doctor if I want. Tone, tone, semitone, right? And the chords were 1, 3, 5 for major and 1 flat 3, 5 for minor. Now, let's get rid of this extra stuff for a second. The chords then become the progressions, like that Waymaker is 4, 1, 5, 6, or Alleluia by Jesus Culture has a 4, 1, 5, 6 in it. So the chords become progressions. The scales then kind of become melodies, but the notes that I land on, my safe notes, are still from the chord. That's what I did when I played the ebow. I used the scale to play melodies, whatever I wanted to do, but when I had to rest on something, I had to stay in the chord tone. So this is what people are going to be singing in church. And when you play a cool melodic thing on a guitar, whether it's rhythm focused or whether it's lead, that's what they're going to hear. That's going to carry an emotion with it. And the songs are on progressions. The singers sing the melodies. You use your chords and your scales to play melodies, to play the progressions, and ultimately use all of this stuff to play guitar parts, to create some kind of an emotion. Go and read the Psalms. It's full of emotions. We need to take something and then depict it in a way on the guitar, right? So that's that. And then we play guitar. And then it's not just guitar. It's not just guitar. It's worship. And what do we do in worship? We create a space where people can sing the word. They can express their heart to God. They can come together in unity and minister to the Lord. And God inhabits the praises of his people. And this is where kingdom happens, right? This is kingdom happening in reality because we have made a focus on the M in our VAMP, the mental understanding of how do we take notes that become chords and progressions and use scales that become melodies so that we can create parts that convey an emotion, not just guitar playing, but it becomes worship that then is the kingdom and God inhabits the praises of his people and awesome stuff happens. And that is what worship guitar is about. So many times people say in our channel, there's no such thing as worship guitar. Well, I've just shown you that there is. It's not about the guitar. It's about Jesus, what he's done for us on the cross. It's our love for God. It's how we step up as leaders to use our gifts and our abilities as a sacrifice unto the Lord, to minister to each other in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, to do all that stuff that we believe in our heart of hearts. We love Jesus. We are thankful for what he's done for us on the cross. And we get to use awesome stuff, guitar, tones, riffs, licks, all the stuff that we love, and we can present that to God as a holy and acceptable sacrifice. We no longer have to present blood sacrifices because Jesus was the ultimate blood sacrifice, but we can keep going on showing our devotion, our love for God, for his people, and that's a great commandment. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's what we do on Sunday. So hopefully that's a bit of a interesting way to kind of get to a sermon, I guess. But that is what we do and why we want to learn the guitar the way we do so that we can facilitate these moments. So thank you so much for all the comments. Let's have a quick look over here. Michael saying, you blessed me, so thanks. I understand how the numbering system works and how to build the scales. But if you ask me what the notes and the chords are, I have to count on my hands like a kid doing math. That's totally cool because when we become kids, it's patterns, it's shapes, it's simple math. And we just have to then memorize that more often and work with repetition as part of our VAMP model. So then you'll definitely get there. So no worries with the comment. Your question is, what one thing I should do to get going if I only had one thing to work on? I would say try and work on memorizing the circular fifths and then looking at what's 1, 3, and 5. Because if you know the notes within the chords and then where to find them on the guitar, then it gets rid of that fear of like, what if I make a mistake or land on the wrong note? Because you know what the scale is, where to find the notes, and you know what note to land on when it comes to highlighting a chord tone. So I would learn the notes of the chords from a mental point of view, learn where to play them on the guitar, so visually you can see the neck, physically you can move around, and then orally your ear is going to start picking up. And then that vamp thing is kind of the one thing that I would focus on there. And I'll definitely cover more of this in future videos, Michael. Thank you. All right. Christ has been lit again for them, Gentiles. So there's a scripture from Ezekiel. So thanks for that, sharing that, Elias. Thank you for that. And thanks so much for the super chat from Michael. I really appreciate that. Unfortunately, it doesn't show the awesome pair character there, but we'll definitely see that. So thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate that. And then Christ Worship saying, hello, praise the Lord. He's from India. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, welcome. Well, guys, the time has flown by. We're at the top of the hour. So I hope this session blessed you, that it created some clarity for you, and that it's simplified. And our focus from the beginning was decoding modern worship. We realized where we ended, worshiping God, making that space available for people to engage in worship. So that's where we ended, so that we decoded that, and we started by simplifying music theory. Hopefully I've done that for you today by looking at how the notes becomes chords and scales, chords become progressions, so scales become melodies, chords and progressions and melodies form music. We sing the word of God. It becomes worship. God inhabits the praises of his people. We minister to each other in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, and that is how all of that works. So thanks so much. And then Christ Worship was asking, can you make any video on patches used in worship? I definitely can. We also have a bunch of stuff on the channel if you want to look at any of that, but we can totally jump into more details around patches, which we'll do 100%. Thanks for that. And saying, thanks for your ministry. I loved your comments on playing Beautiful Name. Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. It's it's an honor and a privilege for us to be on this journey with you guys. We'll put a pinned comment in. We've got a 7-day challenge. It's only $7 where we can go deeper into these different things. If you want to go and learn more about that, we'll do a pinned comment. We'll put it in the description as well. That challenge, I did it live, but all the videos are now available. So it's 7 days of full training. You get lifetime access to that. Feel free to check that out as well. And you can also just go to worshipguitarchallenge.com. All right, guys. Much love to you. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll be back again next week, Friday. But we are going to be doing it a little bit later. So just look out for the YouTube notification. It's going to be more US friendly. And then saying power chords are appropriate. Yes, that's a comment from our video where we said that sometimes, if you look at the nature of God, he's all powerful, and if we want to support some of those lyrics with a big tone and us declaring that and facilitating that declaration and emotion with power chords, totally appropriate, and we can have that in church. And it's so awesome to see how God can take our gifts and abilities and use that to himself be blessed through our worship and obedience, but also bless the people in the congregation. So much love to you guys. I shall see you on the next one. It's really great to see you guys here, and thanks for all the comments. Feel free to dive into the YouTube channel. We are just released a series on triads with some cool stuff that you can do with that as well. So much love, guys. I shall see you next week Friday for another live stream, and on next week Tuesday we'll be publishing